And we're live with the virtual real estate investing podcast. Frank, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I just actually got off the phone with a seller. I'm helping our closer Adam with the deal, and I got the seller down 70 grand on a portfolio, 20 more grand to go. But I feel very good. I'm feeling very frisky.
Yes, I like it. It's a deal we're excited about. I was not very hopeful that you'd get them to drop 70 grand because this isn't like a $2 million deal either. It's not that larger deal. So you not only dropped them 70 grand, but you dropped them like 25, 30% of the purchase price, right?
Yeah. Well, the condition of the homes required a renegotiation. It's not like we're being, bad buyers here. So that helped out a little bit. We had good data from the contractor. So anyway,
Yeah,
let's get into it.
Okay, that is exciting though. Super pumped about our guest today though, Mr. Kyle Allen. We've got a history together for about the past 9 months or something. We've been going back and forth, all things social media, all things marketing, all things how you can hustle your butt off and make money in real estate. Kyle, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you guys for the lovely intro. And, I love hearing stories like that. When I first got into investing, I would hear people and be like, why are they trying to drop the seller so much? But then you see the condition of these houses. You're like, holy cat, you got to do that or else you're going to be the one losing money. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we're in it for business and, and helping people out. But, you got to always look out for what's your best self-interest and making sure you're making smart, educated decisions. So love the intro and excited to be on the podcast today, guys.
Excellent, man. We're excited to have you, and we're going to jump right into it. And we're just going to try to soak you for as much as we can get. This is one of those consulting calls that we don't have to pay for. So we're just going to take as much info as we can from you. But we'll get into how you got started because I think that's a great story. But I want to start off with, tell me about your business now. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so day-to-day basis, I've started out basically helping out with a marketing company. Really getting close to guys like you, trying to help you guys to scale your organizations, find multiple ways to find more motivated sellers, cash buyers, and so on and so forth. So kind of I do that, and I would call that kind of like my day job, right? That's kind of what pays the bills. It helps to kind of, essentially do I call it my 9 to 5 that I work for myself, right? So that's kind of what I do on that side. And then I do spend about 40 hours a week in my real estate investing business too as well. Which consists basically of fix and flips and then also wholesale deals. I've been more leaning towards just going to the fix and flip model, probably over the last, since February or so. So the last 4 months, I learned how to raise capital and kind of got opened up to that whole, different perspective of this world, right? Because everyone's like, oh, you don't need money to go do real estate. And, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to keep wholesaling. And then you're in this hamster wheel and then you're like, okay, cool. Well, what's the next thing, right? Buying fix and flips and then also then building a portfolio. So that's kind of what I've been doing, on a daily basis, probably consist of, calling and talking with sellers, getting on training calls, like Zoom meetings with some of my people that are helping out, essentially doing cold calls, going on Zillow, scavenging through all the MLS of there's certain pockets and areas that we're really looking to fix and flip. And then on the opposite side, I've, this morning I was talking with an apartment investor, helping them to build out, a whole platform and sales navigation, and also being around, this amazing person who's not only going to help to grow my own life, but I'm also going to help to add value in their life too, as well, with some of the more technical stuff. So hopefully that kind of gives you, I have my hands in a lot of different places. So
my last name's really Italian, so I talk with my hands a lot too.
Yeah.
All good. But there's a lot there, right? You talked about a lot of interesting things, but let's start with the beginning of the deal process. How are you finding your deals right now? What's your main marketing channels?
Yeah, so main marketing strategies have been building relationships with agents and getting off-market deals before they even hit the MLS. And that's kind of where we started actually getting more fix and flips, because essentially those deals, you can do that for a little bit in wholesale, but you'll burn that relationship with that agent. So what we've been doing is really building a lot of strong relationships with these agents, basically using them to get these deals. So that's one way that we're doing it. I'm also still doing text message marketing. We're doing a little bit of PPC, not nearly as much as some other players that have probably been on the show and obviously who you guys are around. But those are kind of our marketing channels today.
So we're very interested in your opinion on text and
Yeah.
PPC. What's your opinion on text? It's I think everyone's starting to realize what's going on in 2021. So what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think text message marketing is amazing if you actually get someone to opt in on your stuff, right? And that's, I think, the caveat to it. I think when you go buy a big list and you go start text messaging people, one, you're gonna have to weed out through a lot of people to essentially do that. And that's something that, we had VAs do for us for a while, and we've just been slowly just letting off the pedal on that one. It hasn't been the best ROI for it, which is fine. It's a very cheap alternative. It's definitely got me deals in the past, which I can't say that it hasn't, right? But I would say when it comes down to it, there's better marketing sources out there that you could use, like PPC for an example. But it's hard because when you're getting started, like a lot of people, like my biggest thing was trying to learn how to talk with the sellers, right? Like I knew how to generate leads, but it was like, how do I talk with these sellers and actually get them to drop 70 grand like you were talking about on that portfolio, or get them to the price range where I can actually make some money on this deal. And I think for people getting started, text message is great because you're able to get a decent amount of leads, same with like cold calling, and talk and nurture these leads and learn what your pitch is, and do that before you go into, let's say, like PPC, and you're paying $100, $200, $300 a lead, depending on whatever market you're in. Obviously, there's guys that get them lower, but they're also targeting, the whole nation, and that's why they get it lower, so.
So working with agents hate us, don't they?
No.
Don't real estate agents hate investors? Let's disprove that myth. Tell us what's up, man.
So they hate investors for a couple reasons, right? They hate you when you wholesale the deal, or you lock it up and then you don't get the deal actually closed, right? That's when they hate you, because they were expecting that check and now they're not getting that check. Trust me, I've been there. I know that. I had a couple calls that got really pissed off at me, right? So what I started to realize was they love you when you're their client, right? So a lot of the times what we've done is that they basically represent us as the buyers, as the cash buyers for these properties. They get the 3% on the buy side. And then what we're going to do is then we're going to turn around, and this is where the fix and flip model is really helpful to build better those key relationships. After we finish the project, they're going to get 1.5 on the back end too. So we started doing this with a lot of agents, and they love it because not only are we repeat buyers, they're also getting dual representation on that same property. So they're able to double their income off of one property instead of, essentially just doing one deal with a, one-off buyer. And then guess what? They never hear from them again, and that's it. Right. So, it's a very transactional business, but if you're able to make it relationship based with kind of the things that we're doing, it's the kind of that unique value proposition. Everyone has to find their unique value proposition. That's kind of what we came up with, that was beneficial for the agents and also us.
So, I mean, think about the reasons why an agent might not like a wholesaler. Some of them are true. Low barriers to entry, right? There's a ton of them, and there's more of them than we need, right?
Yes.
But, to play devil's advocate, you know what that also sounds like? Real estate agents. So
it does, though. Yeah. You're 100% accurate.
That's my jab at agents. But I think something we found was, if you're a wholesaler and let's say you're in one market and you're getting 10 to 20 deals a month, like locally, that makes you a legitimate player, right? Agents probably love you because they're like, oh, now I have a reason to go get a cash buyer and bring them to this walkthrough, right? And I'll put my fee on top, or I'll make some money, right? It's easy to make money that way. We found that because we're so decentralized, we're a virtual wholesaler, that agents are like, I'll work with you a little bit, but it's not worth my time to do one a month, right? Which is fair. So we actually just started incentivizing them. Like if we close the deal, we give them a couple $100 just for showing up to the walkthrough. And we're probably overpaying them, but we need dependability, So I think what I'm saying is, like, be fair to agents, right? Like their time is valuable too. So
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And there's some really good agents that you can meet too as well. I mean, like we have an agent that has brought us like over 3 deals now, mm-hmm. and he's loving it because he's making fist over money. Like he's making a ton of money just by representing us as the buyer. He has no idea how to flip a house, how to wholesale a house or anything like that. He just knows how to go find the deal, and I think there's a lot of agents that are also interested in wholesaling that don't understand. And that's where maybe the education comes into as well. We spend a lot of time educating, building that relationship and just that rapport factor too.
Yep. I wanted to, before we move off of it, PPC, you mentioned that you're using it,
Yeah.
but you're using it potentially less than your peers.
Way less than my peers. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts there? What do you like about it, and why are you not using it as much as you think others are?
You should also
One,
say
yeah.
where you are, Kyle, because I think your portion of the country comes into play probably too there.
Yeah, so I'm in the Phoenix area like every other guru. So I'm in a very saturated market. You know, we have like open door. Their headquarters is here, Zillow. We have Offerpad. Like a lot of these big iBuyers, they're here, right? And also these big institutional funds that own 60, 100,000 houses across the nation. Like their headquarters are here. So there's a lot of like very big players, and I'm just a small little fish in the pond. But it's a big pond, right? So why I kind of use it is essentially kind of helps it give a little bit of credibility as far as, you know, they found you online and all that good stuff. And two, that lead is really warm when it comes in. So you're kind of talking about like why I use it. I like using it because I didn't like that I had to, you know, talk with like close to about like 65 people on text messages before I actually got a deal from it. You know, like warm qualified leads. Maybe my conversion ratio just sucked. I don't know what it was, but I just wasn't able to convert very well from the text message leads to actual deals. With this, we're usually averaging about 15 to 20. So it just makes it a lot better for me because obviously I got my hands in a lot of different places. I'm doing a lot of things. I'd rather pay a little bit more for quality and get that instead of having to go, you know, talk with a bunch of people every single day, have those 65 appointments, and then end up with the one deal. I'd rather just kind of be kind of more direct to the seller and all that good stuff. And also the cool benefit of it, kind of going back to the point where I talked about the leads too as well. I run a marketing agency. So these leads that I'll actually not end up like, you know, perfect example, let's say that seller was just dead set on not giving you that 70 grand that you were trying to get down to, right? Well, that's a dead lead in your pile. What I would do is I would basically pass that over to an agent and hopefully get like some kind of compensation on the back end from them, you know? So we'll do stuff like that. And that kind of helps out to pay for the marketing, but also build a relationship with someone that I'm looking to kind of keep on growing and doing things with.
Gotcha. So let's talk about some sexy stuff though. Like,
yeah.
Talk to me about Facebook, talk to me about Instagram, talk to me about TikTok. What's some cutting edge stuff that people aren't doing, or just maybe some sexy stuff people don't know about?
Yeah, so I think one of the sexiest things about social media is your impact to reach out to a lot of different people, right? And I think a lot of people think that you can only get deals through just going to find sellers, right? I think that's one of like the biggest things that a lot of people only focus on. And I kind of was blessed to be able to kind of see in a lot of different eyes and pockets of people that were very successful, not only just in their real estate business, but also in their social media presence, right? And what I noticed was a lot of these people were using, you know, the education route to go get more deals, right? There's a perfect example, like back in my backyard right here, Pace Morby. I don't know if you guys know who that is at all,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The dude is wild. Like everyone knows him. Everyone loves this guy, right? I saw that firsthand that like he was getting more deals than he even knew what to do with because everyone was bringing him a deal because he's helping educate him about sub-twos, creative financing, all that good stuff, right? So I started basically using it for the same thing and with some of my clients too as well. And, you know, to be honest, TikTok is probably one of the easiest ways to get organic reach out there. I mean, I've had like, I think it's close to like 250,000 views on some of my videos with not having to pay a single dime. I haven't paid a single dime to TikTok on the comparison when I run ads on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. My reach is a lot smaller, right? But I'm also getting a lot more of a quality person. So it kind of just depends on what you're looking to do. If you're really looking to reach a lot of people organically, I'd go over to TikTok and just make videos that you would actually want to watch, right? I think a lot of people like make videos that they want to like get something out of it. And it's like, no, like, you know, giver's gain, kind of that mentality. And that's kind of how you really have to look at social media, or else it won't ever work for you. You know, perfect example is like what you guys are doing here on the podcast. Like, I mean, you guys are providing value, asking the hard questions, the right questions that people want to actually know answers to. And I think, you know, those types of stuff. And when you come at it with a very like authentic personality, like people are just attracted to that. There's too much bullshit out there where they can sort through it. We all have like these bullshit readers, right? and you can see exactly what it is. And I think social media is a great way to not only help you get your message out there, but also do some stuff like that. So what I would say, if you're a business owner, right, like I would get TikTok, I'd set up a business account on there, start posting content. You don't have to, like, I see all these people like post 3 times a day. I did that. I started seeing better results when I posted 1 time a day, right? So it just depends on your channel, whatever it is. Biggest thing set up, what they have is basically a Facebook pixel, but it's with TikTok. Right. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that.
Yep.
Basically, what that allows you to do is retarget your audience afterwards. So I started getting some attraction on my business account. Right. And then I went into the tools, I set it all up, and then I'm using that to collect all of this data. Right. And all of that data is going to help not only my TikTok videos to reach more people, but once I start running some ads and start pumping some ads through there, now I'm able to scale it even larger because TikTok already knows what my audience wants and who is interacting on my landing page to download, like, let's say my free wholesale contracts, or watching a video about how to, the 3 secrets to talk with motivated sellers, or whatever the situation is that I'm kind of, giving out free content to them.
Very nice. Hey, Frank, I think your microphone might be thumping or something. One of you guys, I'm hearing a little bit of echo.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All good. I just, might be me too, but if we can look at fixing that. But I think that's awesome. I interrupted you though. So go ahead, Frank.
Oh, you're okay. Yeah. So, I mean, like I love social media. It's helped me to connect with a lot of people, and some really good people that, key relationships, cash buyers. I mean, I sold a deal. This is when I was doing a little bit of virtual stuff. I sold a deal through a guy off TikTok. He hit me up and I literally posted a video about the property and I sold him that property. So, I mean, like, it's way like more than what you guys can think about it. Cause I did like a challenge. This was a couple months back. I did a challenge where I had like a property, cause I help people like close down deals, right, all over the place. And I would basically go, hey, like I'd post it on there and I'd give $1,000 if one of my audience members was able to find a buyer. Instead, this guy just goes, I'll buy it. Right. So I was like, all right, that's easy. I don't have to pay the $1,000. And this guy already bought the property, So I think there's a lot of like really cool things that you guys can do with it. It just really depends on what essentially you want to get from it. Right. Like for me, like, I think it's more about impact. Like I want to impact more people when I'm using social media to help educate and to guide them through some of the things, because, I was blessed to be able to be in such an amazing city that there was people all around that I could go talk to and hit up. And I know there's a lot of places around the country where it's not like that. There's not a big pool of investors or people that are very entrepreneurial. I think I just kind of want to create that organic stuff outside online.
So we have like a quote that keeps popping up in our podcast, and it's something like, gurus all have experienced adversity, but once you become a guru, like, adversity ends. And I think what I'm trying to say there is, like, there's not a lot of vulnerability in our space. Like, people, once they become an educator, it's very much like a rosy picture from that point forward. And because they have to sell, right? Like, they're in sales mode. I think you mentioned Pace. I think does a great job of having some vulnerability, but for those that don't follow him, like, what does that look like, right? Like, if someone's trying to evaluate how full of crap a guru is, like, how do they know that they're legitimate? Or how does better question, how does Kyle maintain vulnerability with his audience?
I just tell them real stories of shit that's happened, right? Deals that went south. Cause there's plenty of them. Like, just last week I went to go look at a property I had under contract. I mean, it was a $60,000 foundation issue. I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram story on that at all. I mean, if I would have bought that deal, I would have lost my ass on it, especially because I've been raising money. Like I kind of told you guys a little bit too. I would not be a happy camper explaining that to my investors. You know what I mean? So it's just like real shit like that happens. Kind of just explaining why I had to do that, or why it wasn't the best thing, and how I looked at it in a different perspective too. Because I think, a lot of that, I use it as a learning lesson, right? Like, hey, like, make sure that we always have an inspection period, because even if I was able to get out of that contract, I would have lost at least $5,000 on my earnest money. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of ways to look at it, but I don't know, like, my mom's done a really good job, like, raising me to kind of like have that vulnerability, I guess, of like just kind of talking about like how I feel and what I'm kind of sensing. I don't know, like, thanks, Mom. So
I love it. I can tell it just comes natural, right? You're a genuine person. which I think is awesome. And let's talk about that. How'd you get started? Right? Like, where did you come from? I think about all of the experience that we've talked about, and then I look at how old you are or how old you look, and I'm like, this guy must have started flipping properties when he was like 7 years old or something. I don't know, but he is crushing it. So tell me how you got started, man.
Yeah, so I did get started at a pretty early age, but I was doing like really like minuscule things, right? So I got started basically passing out flyers, putting out signs, like that's where I got started. So basically started doing that for a guy locally here named Doug Hopkins when I was 16. So just got my license, had a car, was super blessed. I was able to have a car. And basically I needed to make some money. Before that, I was working as an umpire getting yelled at crazy parents. And I was like, screw this. I'm out of here. My buddy was putting out signs that over the weekend, and that's kind of when I would umpire too. So I was like, perfect. It's a weekend gig. I'm still in school. I'm able to make some money. I went out with him and basically helped him to do one of his jobs, putting out all these open house signs. I made like $300 that weekend just putting out signs. I was like, this is so freaking easy. So basically started doing that, then making like $600 a weekend, just putting out signs. Wasn't really doing anything crazy. I was hustling my butt off. I was probably working about 25 hours during that weekend or so, because it'd be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then on the weekdays, I would then pass out flyers for Doug. So Doug was basically, he would wholesale, he would buy at auctions, and then he would fix and flip too. And he had a couple rentals. So I basically go, like, he'd go buy a property in an area and he'd go pay me and he'd give me this big box of flyers, and he'd go circle the neighborhood and knock everyone's door and pass out these flyers. So what did I do? That's what I did, right? So I even hacked it a little bit, because I was like, I got paid off how many flyers I passed out not by my time. So I'd bring my skateboard and I would go house to house to house. So I basically started doing that. And then, so I went to college. I went to the University of Arizona down in Tucson. And, I kind of just like wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Everyone tells you go to school and all that good stuff. So that's what I did, right? Go to school. And I'm like, now in my freshman year, I joined the whole fraternity scene, hated it. And then, I was like, I really need to like do something to make some money, because I blew up a lot of money this first year at school. So I was like, I really need to make some cash. So went back up. I started working in this warehouse and I hated it. I was like, this fucking sucks. I'm printing stuff out. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
You're allowed.
Okay, cool. So it started basically like, printing out all these signs and all that good stuff. And it was just a really dirty job. And I was standing on my feet for like 12 hours. I was like, I know I can do more than this. So I basically saved up. I made about $5,000 that summer, saved up all of my money, and started my own sign company and flyer company that would pass out stuff down to Tucson. Started doing that. One of my first clients was a great guy named Michael Rhodes. He's basically what got me connected to Nick Perry, which got me then connected with you guys and all that good stuff. So I started working with him, just putting out flyers and signs. And he eventually brought me into his business. He's doing about 120, 150 fix and flips. I had a rental portfolio, about 200 houses. So great first client to have, right? To put out these signs. So basically started learning about this whole business, right? And he kind of brought me in with, loving arms, and taught me a lot about this business. I would never be to the point I am today without him, to be completely honest with you guys. So for those of you guys who are getting started, go find someone who is doing stuff actively and just try to help and add as much value. That's exactly what I did with Mike. Like he didn't have a really good marketing system in place. All they were doing was just direct mail. Right. And he had a successful business. I'm not going to take anything away from that, but he had one approach, was just direct mail, and he would just mail out like literally, I think it was like 30,000 mailers every single week or something like that. So what I did is I stepped in and I started helping him diversify. We got him on PPC. We got him on Facebook ads. We got him on text message marketing, helped to set up his Podio, because, they didn't have like anything. It was just like people called in and they'd answer the phones. If they didn't answer the phones, whatever, the lead's dead. So like, it was not an effective marketing strategy. So I came in and I started helping, right, and adding the value that I did. And this is kind of what brought me to launch my agency and really start growing that, because at this point I've proven a concept. I helped him to start doing more deals, effectively save a lot of money on marketing, and then started helping out a lot of people. So I started then doing that for a lot of people around the Tucson area, then basically tapped myself out of Tucson. Because I just wanted to stay local, right? I didn't have the mindset of like going bigger. So I just stayed local. And then from there, I started then kind of reaching out to more people. And then this is all around like 20 years old or so is right about the timeline where I'm at now. I decided to start kind of picking up the lead, like basically picking up some of like the leads for some of my clients locally here in Arizona and going, hey, dude, do you mind if I like just like call these leads and basically be like an acquisition rep for free? Right. And of course, what did they say? Yes, please do it. Right. So had no problem, like obviously start calling some leads and all that good stuff. Cause I just was afraid to like pick up the phone. I was like, I know how to sell a B2B relationship, but like for some reason, me buying a house at like 20 years old just seems like ridiculous. I don't think I can do it. Go back to the limiting beliefs. I changed those. I start working on myself a lot more. And I got my first wholesale deal. I made like $12,000 on that one. I met the guy out at Village Inn to go sign the paperwork. And all that good stuff. Right. And just a very like weird story. Cause like, I was like kind of working with him and all that good stuff. And then, he's kind of like, oh, I actually have another buyer. And then he dips out, right, for a while. And then the buyer basically backs out of the deal, which you guys have probably had happen numerous amounts of times. Buyer backs out of the deal. Probably another wholesaler didn't know what they were doing. And then he comes back to me, this guy named Bobby, and is like, hey, I want to sell the property, right? I go, perfect. Well, we can get it locked up at the 165 number and get this all signed up. So basically I signed that contract. I sold it and that guy made like 6 figures on the flip. I didn't realize how much like the rehab budget was going to be. So I definitely messed up a little bit. Probably could have made like 30 grand on that deal. It is what it is. It's a learning mistake. But I started basically that's kind of like my progression of it. And then at the beginning of this year, I started doing some fix and flips. I started getting some deals locked up and all that good stuff, just continuing wholesaling. And I knew I was leaving a lot of money on the table. So my first one, I basically funded the deal myself from saving up all those assignment fees and some of the other stuff that I was, making money from, and decided to just go all chips in on this one deal. I knew it was a solid deal. Basically that deal closed out and made 60 grand off of it profit. And that's kind of where I was like, all right, this is like something that I know is like worth it, so I just kept on like pursuing that. We got 3 other ones that were fixing and flipping single family houses. And then today I have a 4-plex that I did a seller note on, similar to like some of the stuff that Pace Morby does. And basically I have like a spread of like $200,000 into that 4-plex. That's just equity that is mine now off of that deal. Plus it's going to cash flow like $24,000 a year of just straight profit after all of the expenses and stuff too.
Well, man, crushing it out
there. 24K on a 4-plex after expenses. And I'm assuming your principal and interest is it's very, very good.
Yeah, it is very good.
Yeah, I'm like, is that in downtown Manhattan? I'm like thinking to myself, like the rents must be pretty legitimate.
That's over the year.
No, even still, like you said, wait, did you say 24,000 or 2,400?
24,000. Yeah.
Yeah, so man, that's good.
Yeah, that's what we'll net on it. So basically the situation was the landlord had it for like since 83 or 86. I can't remember the exact year, but late, right? It was a while ago. And basically they were only charging like $500 a month in rent for each of these units. And the market rents in that area are about $1,300. So basically what I did is I put together all of those and I go, hey, I'll continue to pay that $2,000. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to then rent it out for the rest of it. So, yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's really, really good. I didn't want to skip over this. You mentioned twice before how you've been funding deals, and I imagine it's hard being as young as you are. Like, hey, I'm sure a lot of your friends don't give you the money, right? 21-year-olds, typically they're spending money on beer, right? Or whatever it is that kids spend money on now. So how have you went from, working at a warehouse to raising capital in large numbers? I'm definitely curious about that.
Yeah. So one of them, to be completely honest, one of the best ways to raise capital is through other real estate investors. I know it sounds freaking crazy, but they all understand the deal and they understand everything. So what we'll do is we'll do joint ventures either with these people. And then what we're more starting to get into is actually acquiring debt right on these. So instead of just doing joint ventures with them where they're bringing all the capital and we're managing the whole deal, basically what we're doing is we're leveraging debt. So a lot of these people I've met through golfing. I've met through just networking events, especially here. There's a lot of like entrepreneurial people. So I have, people that are in their 30s, 40s that are making, a couple $1 million a year. I have a buddy of mine, I'm not going to say his name, but he does like probably about $30 million a year versus in e-commerce. So I've reached out to him and partnered up on deals with him as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and it's just kind of knowing your network. And it then goes back to the education like education material. Like even my buddy, you know, like who's doing the e-commerce business and making a ton of money, like he didn't want to lose money still, right? Like, I don't think anyone does. So how I kind of approached it was very educational on like how I can get him into these properties, and also save him some money on his taxes, you know, also build his wealth through real estate instead of just being only online. So a little bit different. I'm not able to hit the returns he's able to hit on his e-commerce, but it's another diversification aspect that he's able to get. So
Very
awesome. And I was going to ask, are you structuring that as debt, or are you guys splitting equity, or do you do both?
So we're starting to lean more towards, now that we have more of a track record, more towards debt. But, you know, when we were first getting started, just equity splits with them. So, you know, they would bring, you know, we would still leverage debt on some of the deals too as well. And then we'd basically go, hey, you're going to fund the down payment plus the rehab, and it's $140,000, and we're going to split the profit with you, and we'll manage everything, and you don't have to do anything.
Yep.
So.
Sounds familiar to me. We've done that before too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Plum, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. And just a quick shout out. Do you guys know who Jay Connor is at all?
No, I don't think so.
So great guy. If you guys want to learn anything about raising capital, he's actually who I learned from. And he has a lot of different books and seminars and stuff like that about raising capital. So
nice. I was going to comment on golf and ask you what your handicap is. Frank's a big golfer. If we come out to Phoenix, we're going to have to play around.
Yeah, I'll definitely play around with you guys. I don't know what my handicap is because I don't keep score very often. But I'm usually shooting about a 90, so I'm not that good. So
that's if you're breaking 100 consistently, that's better than most people.
Yeah.
So
I'm about the same, but I love going out to Arizona. I played True North a couple years ago. Awesome course, awesome area to play golf.
That is a very good course.
Yeah.
So my question is, what have you learned in the last 12 months, right? And the way I want to frame it is, if we would have had you on a podcast 12 months ago, what are some of the things that you would have said that now you have definitely changed your mind on? Yeah.
So, you know, I think my biggest thing that I learned over the last 12 months is like building the right partnerships is incredibly important. I have now a partner inside of my like real estate business, been instrumental inside of that business. Not only, you know, he doesn't even have a background in it, by the way, either, to give you guys a comparison. Like he comes from the digital marketing background, similar with me. And having that right partner is super important, because not only does that help you to wake up every single day and want to push yourself even more, but it also, you have your strengths and your weaknesses. And I think a lot of the time, you know, I didn't realize what my weaknesses were, and those just don't get, you know, they don't get fulfilled, right? Like at the end of the day, they keep popping up. And a lot of the times I hear it all the time in like these personal development stuff, and they're like, you know, don't focus on your weaknesses, go find someone else that can help out with those. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I learned is like lean into my strengths more, and to, you know, find the right people that essentially I can partner up with and do that type of stuff with. So I'd say that's one of the major things. And just kind of believing in myself a little bit more. I think, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you're always, you know, as you continue to keep growing, it's really hard to, like, you know, I look back even just a year ago, like you said, and it's like, you know, there's a lot of things I had to do that I maybe didn't do before, you know what I mean? And I had to overcome those hurdles. And when there was that roadblock up there, I had to look at the roadblock or hit it smack on and go, shoot, what the heck am I going to do? How am I going to get around this? Am I going to sit there with a sledgehammer for 2 days and just keep hitting it? Or am I going to figure out a way around it? So I think there's a lot of times that, you know, it just goes back to, you know, just kind of building a lot of like myself up, right? Like building more about who I am and kind of building that, because that's going to be the strongest foundation for me and also the people around me too.
Yeah. And then how do you build that confidence? I think, you know, even me, and I imagine Frank as well, like we've got imposter syndrome at times, right? Where we feel like, you know, we're not as good as some of those other people. So you point that out, I think is great, because there's a lot of people that feel that and they can never kind of label and identify that feeling. So what do you do to overcome some of those insecurities?
I think one of the biggest things is like I listen to a lot of like motivational stuff. So every time I'm in my car, I'm not listening to music for the most part, unless I'm like with people and they're like, what the hell is this weirdo doing? Listen to like Les Brown or, Tony Robbins or, any of those like motivational guys. So I listen to a lot of stuff like that. And also it's the narrative that I talk to myself within, I mean, whether you think it or not, you talk to yourself all the time, and it's those thoughts that you have to change in order to kind of change your biology and your chemistry inside of your brain. So I think that's some of the stuff. And, I think I heard you mention, I think maybe this is a while ago when we talked about it. You've been sober for a while, right?
Yeah. It's been about 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. So that's one thing. I'm like not consistent on the weekends. I'll still have fun and stuff like that. Yeah. But, like I used to drink on like weekends and stuff like, or weekdays and stuff like that. So I think, kind of having self-worth of like, hey, at 5 o'clock tonight, I'm not going to go have a couple of glasses of wine and get a little drunk before I go to bed. I think that kind of really helps out, or I'm not going to go smoke weed or anything like that. I think those types of things really help you to value yourself more, which then just changes your whole perspective in your whole life moving forward. So I think that's a big thing. I know that's maybe a weird topic to talk about because I know a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, my brother went through rehab and had a lot of different things that he went through. And I know those 9 months that I went sober with him, like day for day, right, just like making sure I was like his accountability buddy. I think really just like it helped me out to learn a lot about myself, and also to not, let that voice kind of take control and go, no, you want this, right? Like you should have self-control over your body and not let your body tell you what it wants to do and let your brain tell you what it wants to do. So.
I love it, man. I've got a master's degree in sport and performance psychology and teach it at West Point. I love all that stuff. And I sum it up, I think very similar to what you're describing. It's just like, what makes you feel your best day in and day out? Like, do more of that, right? There's it's amazing how many activities we do that we know aren't good for us or don't help us be our best, but we keep doing them. So I'm always like, hey, take an inventory of what makes you feel your best. And chances are it's going to be good sleep, good nutrition, good exercise, hanging around positive people. Like that's what fills your bucket. Keep doing lots more of that,
I couldn't agree anymore. And that's one of the things, like I started, especially this last year, really surrounding myself around more like-minded people, because, there's a lot of people in everyone's relationships that are not like that. Right. And it's hard to kind of take mental inventory of some of those and understand who you need to spend more time with and who you don't. So doing some of that stuff will help you out. And, I would say working out quite a bit helps too. It builds that confidence. It builds, the endorphins and energy that comes inside of that. I mean, it's scientifically proven. So it's like I get up, I go run. I didn't want to go run this morning, but put on my shoes because I set them out the day before, right? Before I went to bed and all that good stuff. And it helps me to make sure that, I'm hitting the things that I need to hit every day.
Nice. I want to change gears a little bit, and I want to dig in a little bit on why real estate. And the reason I'm asking that question is you're definitely tech savvy, right? So you think about all the different opportunities, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't say go into real estate. Right. And I have some of that same pull. Is I think we can use we can use technology to make us better real estate investors. But there's also, we can look around and see people similar to us that are building apps or, have e-commerce stores that might be easier. It might be harder, but it might be easier too. I don't know. So how do you think about that, and why real estate?
Yeah, so I've been pitched by countless amounts of startups. Like I can't even fathom how many I've actually been pitched to. So it's a great thing because obviously I get to see a lot of ideas, but the problem with a lot of those is that they end up being a fad more than less. And real estate is not a fad. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you could have like a perfect example. Like I talk with my buddies that have these e-commerce stores and are making really good money from them, but they're constantly having to readapt, change new products and all that good stuff. Like their products die on them all the time. So like, that's like a perfect example. I mean, like your real estate business is not going to really die on you, especially if you build a portfolio, for an example. Like if, let's say I had, even just, let's say $10 million worth of real estates that are, at assets under management, that I have as rentals, like those things are going to keep continuing to pay me whether I show up or whether I don't show up. And some of their businesses, if they don't show up, it might be fine for the next 3 months, but eventually it's going to come a time when that product stops working, those ads stop working, and they have to go back in there, and it's a hamster wheel again for them. So, I mean, the real reason why real estate was, it was something physical. I like the idea of borrowing debt against it. I mean, I've been a part of some people that have pitched, products to Silicon Valley and stuff like that. And that type of debt is very scary. And also it's not the best debt to get. You're giving out a lot of equity. In this business, essentially, you could do it with a lot of debt and never give out any equity if you really chose to do that model. At first, I wouldn't recommend that if you're getting started, right? Like give out equity, make sure that you're giving your investors happy, and then move into that model where you're taking on, those second mortgages, right? Or a deed of trust or whatever you want to call them out in your state. So what I would say is like kind of start doing stuff like that. And I just like the idea of real estate. Like, I don't think it's something that's going away. I like the appreciation of it. Technology fades, right? Like it comes in, perfect example, like my phone, it's an iPhone X, right? iPhone X. I mean, in 10 years from now, this thing is going to be worthless, right? And there's going to be like 20 other versions of it. That house that was built in the 50s is still there today. It's still popular because it's in a great location, and someone's going to go in there and either gut the place and rehab it and live in it themselves and still pay top dollar for it, or they'll do it, whatever it is. So that's kind of how I looked at it. And, it just was around a lot of people that even were wealthy that decided to get into real estate. And, whether they took their money from their tech companies or whatever it was, they ended up still back in real estate. So I always thought that was very curious of why that was. And I started asking him some questions, and a lot of the reasons for tax benefits and also the appreciation gain, the cash flow that comes from it. It's a lot more passive if you want it to be passive. And I think it's also a business that, like, you can do it by yourself, but you shouldn't do it by yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're going to need team members. You're going to need stuff like that. And a lot of times, like, when you're in a startup business, it's like the guy who starts the company tries to do it all. And then the company never goes anywhere because he's too selfish to give up equity, or is too selfish to pay employees or whatever it is. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I really liked real estate.
Nice. And then, you mentioned the iBuyers being in your back door. Have you thought at all about trying to apply to one of those companies? And part of the reason why I asked that is it seems like some of them just lack good real estate hustle and knowledge, right? So yeah. I think there's opportunity there.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that. So Offerpad actually provided me a job when I first got out of college. I applied there because my mom was persistent on it. She didn't think this whole entrepreneurial phase was going to last. And she's like, it's going to come a day when like you have like to pay for benefits and medical stuff. Cause obviously I'm young, I'm still underneath my parents' plan and stuff. But I considered taking a job there, but they wanted me to stop doing everything. I had to literally shut down all my companies, and I was going to take a pretty nice haircut by doing that too. And I just was like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm going to pass on that one. And it was to go raise capital for them, which is ironic because it seems like they have more money than they know what to do with. But that's basically what my job was going to entail, was doing that with them. So I've always considered it, but I think I'd rather not go down that route, to be completely honest. It's very corporate style and not something I think I would fit in very well.
Gotcha. One question I asked you, it's probably been about 6 months or so, but I loved your answer, and I'd love to hear your answer now is, if I dropped you off in Omaha, Nebraska and told you needed to buy 100 houses in the next 6 months, and they all needed to be deals, like how would you do it? Right? Like starting from nothing in a new area. I think it's a good mental exercise to hear your strategy. And when you answered the question last time, I was like, this guy's good, man. I like it. So let's hear it.
Well, I know Warren Buffett lives there, so maybe I bring him a Coke every day or something like that, and write a note on it to get the money for all these 100 houses. But I can't even remember what my answer was from it last time. But honestly, this is what I would probably end up doing, is I try to meet as many other investors as I possibly could, network with them, really try to, get inside, add value that I can. And, not necessarily like, take over some of their company, but become like a partner inside of the company. and acquire something that's already working. I think that's a lot faster to do that. I think the other thing would just be just hustling and just door knocking or something like that, right? Like getting some capital to build up if I had no money, doing something like that, and just seeing what I could do. I don't know if that's the same answer. I can't even recall.
I like you. I think you were definitely on the Facebook train. When you
yeah.
answered last time.
Facebook group would have been a great way to do it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Facebook groups, reaching out to a lot of people on there. I mean, I've gotten countless deals from Facebook groups, just JVing with people. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of ways to go get a deal. And I think that's what holds up a lot of people. So what I would say is like, go all in on one of them until it starts working good for you, or until it proves itself it doesn't work for you. And then just go find the next thing and go do it again.
Have you had to fight that? You seem like you're into a lot of different things, and I am as well. I have been accused of chasing shiny objects many times. How do you stay focused on what's most important?
So I kind of just, like perfect example, like if, for right now, it's like my real estate company that's most important to me. So like if a deal pops up, like, and I have an appointment set up for some of my marketing stuff, like, to be honest, I'm missing that appointment. I'll let them know. So I think when it comes down to it is one, time blocking is a really big thing. I stick to my calendar pretty religiously. And that helps me out to essentially make sure I'm doing what I need to be doing. So like before I even get out in the day, like my day's already been planned. I planned it either a week ago or a couple of days ago, just based off of how I usually work and do stuff like that. But I would say just kind of wherever I feel like I'm most passionate about too is where I'm going to spend most of my time, because I think a lot of people focus on things that necessarily are not the most productive with their time, right? But they feel like it could be, but that's where their passion comes in. Right. And it's like, if you continue to lean into your passions and get really good, whatever that passion is, I mean, you're going to be deadly at that. So, I mean, just go in on that type of stuff. And, it is always going to be new. And that means you're evolving and you're growing. I don't see it as much as a shiny object syndrome. I see it more as, hey, I know that if I do this, I'm going to be continuing to better myself, which is most important on my personal development.
I like it. I like it. Steely-eyed killer focus, baby.
Yeah.
So rest of 2021, where are you headed? What are your goals?
Yeah. So the goals is I like to finish out with about like 20 flips or so, which is like really kind of like one of the biggest things that I want to focus on. I essentially want to I'm really not passionate about wholesaling, to be honest. I feel like I'd leave too much money on the table, especially in today's market. I might reconsider it if, the tides start to change a little bit, you know what I mean? And maybe it's not as accessible to go get funding for some of these deals, but I think, there's a lot of money to be made with flipping. So I'd really like to focus more on that, finish out with about 20 flips this year, and then raise about another like $2 million or so is where I'd like to be at. And then with some of my agency stuff, just really doing a lot of high ticket stuff, building out like very custom stuff for, like these bigger investors that I'm able to help out to another level. Cause I like working with a lot of people that are just getting started. It's just hard when, they don't have the capital or the funding, or even just the discipline, to be completely honest, to show up every single day, and do what it needs to take to get the job done.
For sure. I like it, man. Well, Kyle, if people like this and they're picking up what you're putting down, how can they get in touch with you? Do you offer consulting services? Can someone sign up for your agency? Can someone lend you money? Tell me everything, man. Yeah.
So, I mean, the best way to do it is just if you guys want to book up a call with me. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm a pretty open book. I just like talking about anything. If you guys want to book up a call, basically the link is Kyle Allen, KYLEALLEN.US/book, BOOC. Or K, Jesus. If I could spell correctly, maybe you guys can reach me. But if you guys go over there, check out my social media platform. If you guys want to talk about anything, I mean, yesterday I had someone, he's 25 years old, sold one of his houses. He's going to make like 90 grand on it. And he wants to buy a fix and flip, right? So I told him, hey, I'll help you to go find the deal, all that good stuff. So, it just kind of depends on your situation. Not every case I'm able to help you guys out, but always willing to give, at least a 30-minute call, talk with you guys and see what essentially I can do or who I can connect to in my network to help you out.
Awesome. I like it. And it was kyleallen.us/book, BOOK.
Yes, that's how
Okay.
you spell book correctly.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, really appreciate your time. I think definitely got some knowledge. I think your story is inspiring, and I'm super pumped to continue watching your trajectory, as I know you're going to crush all those goals, man.
Perfect, man. Well, I really appreciate you guys for having me on here today. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to catch up and share with you guys what I've been up to. And hopefully you guys got some value out of this podcast today, and definitely make sure you guys subscribe to their podcast if you guys haven't yet.
There we go. I like it. I like it. All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you guys.
All right. See ya.